Scott is actually our salesperson for Kelly Roofing and helps me when I go to bounce these ideas off of the next piece of this platform that we want to integrate. And he's a fantastic resource because he has a technical background, but yet he's able to articulate very well, which is weird for people who are good on the tech side, right? They don't usually do both. He is an avid dog lover, and he has a Jack Russell mix named Tiger.
I thought that might get the group. Thank you. So yeah, I'm Scott Dwyer, as mentioned. I've been working with Power Objects for about 5 years. I've come through, kind of to mention the technical experience, I came through our delivery team, spent a few years on our pre-sales team, and now I'm in more of a sales role. But I do kind of have that more complete background that helps me kind of be a little bit more consultative, at least in my mind. I just want to take you through a few things today. So one, I'll start off just telling you about Power Objects, who we are, where we've come from, and then kind of move into this term that you may or may not have heard thrown around today, the Power Platform, which is, believe it or not, completely decoupled from Power Objects. We just had a fortunate bit of luck in choosing our name many years back, or my bosses have a lot more foresight than I could ever imagine. But yeah, so now we are kind of focused on that Power Platform on Microsoft's business applications. So I'll take you through kind of what that means to us, and then finally, I do have a few samples. I've got a couple more samples on my computer if you'd like to see more, because I just have slides today. But feel free to interrupt if there's questions or comments at all throughout. Go ahead and start the slides here. Oh, you're just fine. So the first one I just want to drive to our kind of mission statement here on the bottom. So we're 100% focused on Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is the Power Platform that I'm going to tell you about, and driving success for your end-to-end journey. So the idea there is that start to finish and post-finish, we're always there. So ideally, we can be kind of your one provider, your one partner for all of these business applications. And there's never a time where you kind of feel left out to dry or alone on this new technology. So there's several different ways to engage our delivery team, our support team, our R&D team in such a way that you can make sure you have what you need. Really quickly, going to take you through these 3 areas again. And obviously, again, feel free to interrupt at any point, but you can go ahead and advance right away. So this is Power Objects. So we are an HCL company. So our start was in 1993. We were essentially a Minnesota-based garage startup by 2 gentlemen, Jim Sheehan and Dean Jones. And what they did at the time was basically general IT consultation. So you had a problem, they would come in and try to solve it. They were, as they say, jack of all trades, master of none. Around the 2008 timeframe, we decided to choose a focus. So Dean and Jim kind of surveyed the landscape and said, all right, what is a good starting point? A development platform is what Dean called it, that he was looking for, that we could focus on, that we could potentially become the best in the world at. They didn't see a way to grow if they were trying to do everything, and they were kind of trying to find one elephant to eat, obviously, if you will. Once we chose Dynamics CRM, again, primarily because it was a development platform. So one of our co-founders, Dean Jones, led our R&D team for many years. And over the top of this product, he built something called Power Pack. So we have about 30 different add-ons to Dynamics CRM that are very affordable to use, and they're just kind of small, generic use cases. I think the rule of thumb was once we heard a requirement 3 times, we would kind of turn it into a Power Pack, put it into the marketplace for people to reuse. And obviously, Dynamics was a very, even in 2008, it was a very customizable platform. Today, it is much more configurable. The differentiator there is where we used to need a lot of code to get things done. We could still always get it done, but it took that developer. It took a Dean Jones, if you will. We are now moving into a place where a more functional consultant, potentially somebody like a Jim, maybe not that far, but it's the configuration baseline is there. So you don't need to send everything offshore. You're not looking for a team of developers to develop everything that you need. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. So now we've gotten, moving forward in the timeline a few years after, we were named as Microsoft's Worldwide Dynamics CRM Partner of the Year. So our very first, what we call a BHAG, or Big Hairy Audacious Goal, was to be the #1 Dynamics CRM provider in the world. We accomplished that, I think, a little bit quicker than we even imagined, but we are very excited about that. We then pivoted to try to positively impact 1 million dynamic CRM users. This is still when it was called CRM, mind you. We got to that, and largely because of our PowerPack subscriptions that I mentioned. We have a blog online, a CRM book, so a lot of our educational content is just readily available for any and everybody to use. And we were able to track, according to our metrics, 1 million positive interactions through that, mostly through our website and the PowerPacks, which is really exciting for us. And right in time, the platform started to expand, if you will. So what was Dynamics CRM? You started to hear Dynamics 365. And we had to kind of retrain our minds to remove the CRM language. We had to retrain our branding. If you've ever seen any of our shirts or hoodies or anything, they have CRM pasted all over them. So we had to kind of start to grow as Microsoft expanded this platform. So what Dynamics 365 meant, and we can go ahead and advance this slide, I think. Ooh, I should put them in a terrible order.
Keep going.
Yep, one more. So what Dynamics 365 is this unification. So this is the Power Platform that we talk about. So it's Dynamics 365, you have Dynamics CRM, and you have Dynamics ERP. So you have both formerly AX, now Finance and Operations, formerly Navision, now Business Central, underneath just the Dynamics 365 umbrella. What fits in there as well, oh, this repeats itself, that's why I'm getting confused. Power Apps, Flow, Power BI. So Power Apps is essentially, if I'm putting it in the most simple way, a no-code platform to develop your applications. So what it does is it connects to something called the CDS, or Common Data Service. So underneath Dynamics 365, there's basically just a layer of common entities. So think account, contact, opportunity, lead, some of the basics that just about every company out there is going to be using. And the Power Apps are natively connected to those. So if you want to do something for your salespeople where they're bringing up a list of their opportunities and they're editing estimated close date, estimated values, maybe just in line, and it was a very simple task. You only needed that one activity done. You can now build out an application that just shows them that. There's no navigation. There's no clicking around. It is one application, one list of opportunities, edit, 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 right in line. The other advantage this has, though, is into that CDS, you can connect to really any and every technology. So anything that has an interface, you can now bring into this CDS and then use your Power App to interact with it. And when you are going among, so maybe a Dynamics and maybe a marketing platform or a customer service platform, you're using something called Flow, which is our next step here. So what Flow does, if you've ever heard of a workflow, essentially, or in Dynamics, so a workflow is essentially an if-then statement. So if this happens in my database, if I change this field, if I update this status, et cetera, take these requisite actions, and you kind of define that follow-up. So what Flow does is it takes that same kind of framework, and even the screens start to look similar, but it takes it outside of just the dynamic space. So you have if-then statements that can go among systems, that can go, basically expand beyond just your dynamic CRM space. So they're talking to something like an IoT sensor, might send a notification to your system, and then in that, in turn, maybe notifying your field rep via a mobile device that, hey, there's we're predicting something will break down, or we have a scheduled maintenance that's popped up that you need to take care of. So kind of through those connections, we're now putting, where there was, you're choosing a technology. And with that technology, you're choosing a mobile application to go with it. And then once you're building that mobile application, you obviously need to retrofit it to your business requirements. So rather than, Ken was mentioning, kind of spending your time assessing dozens of different mobile applications, doing a pro-con list of each one, finding out what feature set best matches with my requirements, even if there isn't kind of a glove fit for you. Now you can kind of reverse engineer that process, and you can say, okay, here's my requirements. Let's design our own applications on this Power Apps platform that fit those requirements specifically, and only those requirements. So you're not spending money on native features or functionality in a mobile app that you don't need. You're also not spending time or relying on somebody else to maintain a mobile application. So formerly, we could have built you a very custom mobile application over the top of Dynamics. You would have been relying on a partner, on a Power Objects to kind of maintain that app. We would have been somewhat at the mercy of Microsoft as they upgraded their programs and upgraded their software. Now you are building your application inside of the Microsoft ecosystem such that they need to support you, obviously. So you've built it on their Power Platform. You've built it using their accepted technologies, their APIs, their SDKs, in such a way that rather than relying on a partner or your own IT staff to maintain these things, you're kind of offboarding that task to just the Microsoft ecosystem. They obviously release a product to the market. It's up to them to keep that kind of humming and going as they need to. The final addition to Power Platform is Power BI, and this one you probably are a little bit more familiar with. Power BI is simply just a reporting interface. But what this does is, much like your Power Apps, much like your flows, Power BI doesn't rely on one database. It's able to connect to multiple different sources and kind of roll up or present those different ideas back to you. So when we talk about things like a Power BI dashboard, some of the really kind of cutting edge or bleeding edge examples that you see are, in the oil and gas space, you start to see these IoT connected diagrams, flow diagrams of kind of where the gas is flowing, where the valves are, where things might be pressurized or heated or so on and so forth. And through this Power BI dashboard, you're actually interacting and seeing in real time what those sensors are reading back to you. And then in certain situations, kind of the next frontier, I think, is taking like a HoloLens and being able to then superimpose that Power BI dashboard over the top of the actual tool or piece of machinery that you're looking at. And then you can receive kind of remote coaching or flip this switch, replace this valve. And you're actually seeing, through the use of kind of combining Power BI with a little bit of augmented reality, really kind of the next level of kind of healing and repair. So you can obviously see that rather than training up each and every one of your technicians to that expert level where they can handle anything you throw at them, you might be able to be rolling trucks with more affordable resources, with more junior resources, managed by kind of one pilot, if you will, working from actually your classic desk space and basically performing remote coaching sessions where they're not losing time driving to sites. There's no downtime for this person. They just jump between active sessions run by somebody who might be able to save you a few dollars and in other places. Excuse me, I wanted to see how I'm doing on time here. So that is Power Platform. And I think the key focus for all of this is these applications that I'm talking about, building something like a checkout equipment app or an app that would show you your route for the day, for instance. So you've got 7, 8 work orders, directions, maybe a phone call, maybe a text message ahead. Something simple like that I can show you in a few minutes might take days, maybe weeks to build, where in kind of a former life, I think we're all used to weeks and months being the starting point of the conversation. And then obviously there's always that kind of fear and anxiety as we sit and wait for weeks and months for something to come back to us, because we know, okay, if we slightly missed the mark on a requirement or weren't clear on something, it could come back to us completely kind of upside down, and we could be right back at square one. So developing in a business application like Dynamics on an agile fashion was always kind of the aim. That's where people wanted to be. Actually executing in an agile fashion was a lot more difficult, because basically as soon as one exchange of this is what I need, here's what I get, as soon as one goes awry or it doesn't go perfectly as planned, we're no longer really delivering as consistently and as often as we would like. So by decreasing the development time and even really decreasing the specific skill sets needed, the idea here is that you're able to work in a much more agile and predictable mode, such that you can kind of fly in and actually course correct sooner and easier than you would have been able to in the past. So this one came off a little strange. Can you click one more time? I think there's going to be, yeah. So basically when we started with Power Apps, this was kind of a new technology as of about, I want to say maybe 18 months ago. It spent several months in preview, and even the V1 release was tricky. So we were not able to really confidently just take this and run with it. If you've ever worked with a V1 release of anything, whether it be a car, truck, or anything else, there's some risk there. So we kind of started assessing the Power Platform, but when we really started to take off was when we did something, basically we did an enterprise POC with one of our larger customers. And that served as kind of our own POC as well. So we were able to prove out, like, okay, well, if we can do this inside of one of the largest retail companies in the world, and they're adopting it, we probably have room to start exploring this a little bit more seriously. Because if somebody like one of the larger retail organizations in the world is going to adopt it, we can assume that it's going to trickle down and be a pretty popular area. Which led to our hackathon, which I believe, Ken, you participated in. So this is where we essentially pulled our existing customer bases and said, hey, we want to build you a free app. We need you to provide us the use cases. We're going to spend one day, exactly one day, just to demonstrate the pace at which these can be developed. It was a Sunday. I think it was July 1st, if I remember correctly. And we had about 40 consultants throughout the globe participating. And we came up with just some really simple, basic sample applications that hopefully can kind of start to trigger your ideas and creativity a little bit. So I think if you advance, we should be on a sample application here. Ken, look familiar? Yep. So you can see here, this is that simple field service app that we talked about. So as I'm selecting my account that I need to visit for the day, I've got some very basic options. I can call them, and this is all connected to their CRM record. So it's not call client, enter phone number, call the lookup phone number. This is connected to a contact record somewhere in CRM that has all of this data already. So call, get directions, syncs up with the Bing Maps API, and uses your native mapping app on your phone to show you directions. Send an in-route text message, add photos, add note on the appointment, make follow-up. So you can see all of these things are kind of the starting point of what you need out of a field service app. And this was built in about one day. And you can kind of see, adding an image, for instance. Another thing that I actually just learned about a few days ago at one of our MVP events was, and I'm not going to remember the name of the company, so forgive me, but there's a company now that makes buttons, like a literal easy button. You just, you can pin it anywhere. And the MVP was telling me, so basically we could take, using Flow, these actions, and you could actually program them into a button in a van or a truck or whatever you're rolling. And it has, I think it's click, double click, and hold functionality. So if you had 3 different text messages, I'll be there in 5 minutes, I'm running late, or I have to cancel the appointment, maybe, whatever it might be, you can actually program those into a button on the dash of a van, on the dash of a truck that says, okay, I'm on my way, or hold it, oh, I'm going to be late. And things like that are, more pointed solutions. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to ever evaluate the field service mobile application or even the Resco mobile application that Microsoft formerly used with their field service practice. It is a very powerful tool, but it isn't something that I can pick up and intuitively utilize. It takes a little bit of finagling, where do I click to do this? And oh, I'm drilling in here, that's the wrong spot, I've got to back out, excuse me. I've got to back out. You're spending more time searching for what should be kind of very simple and very easy to use. And you can see how, here we make it very simple. You have a few actions that you need to take when you're in an application. Here they are. And this goes beyond just a field service technician. So a huge thing about Power Apps, there's 2 types. There's a model-driven app and a Canvas app. To explain the difference, I think, among those two would be a little bit of a moot point for this group. But the idea behind each of them is whether I'm a direct user of Dynamics, an office-type user sitting at, looking at dashboards, consuming things that way, or a field technician, we have an avenue to create an application for you, so your version of Dynamics that is very specific to your user role. So in a model-driven app, it's basically grabbing the pieces and parts of Dynamics 365 that are pertinent to you, and that's all you see. So your navigation isn't sales, service, marketing. It's maybe just sales or just customer service, and then just the few entities that you interact with. And then in a Canvas-driven app, we can take that, and the build-out is truly, they say it's kind of a meeting of the minds between PowerPoint and Excel. So if you can imagine looking at this application as, okay, here's my first slide, and I write some, I tell it what to display. I can change the colors and things like that. And then using Excel-like functions is how you kind of advance from one screen to the next. You're adding some flows to your Excel functions, things like that. So there's a bit of a learning curve with just basically how to write a Power Apps function as opposed to an Excel function. It isn't a direct one-to-one mapping. But the learning curve is very, very manageable if you're somebody, whether you're a super technical developer or somebody who's my background is a little bit more as a functional consultant, essentially. The learning curve for this is pretty simple. And if you have happened to utilize Dynamics 365 or Dynamics CRM in the past, then the interface is going to be even more familiar. Things like working with schemas, solutions, all these things are kind of being unified more and more really every day. So some of the features that are in preview from Microsoft right now are going to do, an even better job of kind of bringing all of this together, specifically the administration of all of this. So you're no longer kind of moving your apps in one place and your solutions in another place. All of that eventually is going to be able to be packaged. I'm sorry if that's a little bit too technical for a few folks. We can advance to the next slide. Go ahead.
The underlying principle here, right, is your audience here. You have software developers, you have contractors, you have marketing folks. The underlying principle here is make the app work the way your users need it to work, right? If you're an Office user, you need full access to the reporting capabilities. Ken wants to see his pie charts and his analytics and all that kind of good stuff. And he should have that interface. If you're a field guy installing a roof or doing a service call, then you only need the basic subset of those tools for you.
Exactly.
You don't need the rest of that stuff.
It's a personalized experience. It's no longer, just like your advertising that comes into your inbox every day is personalized to you. So it's time for your job application to be the same. And here I have a few other examples, and I've got a video on my other computer. A delivery tracker app, so you can scan the RFID, and it's going to connect to the Bing Maps app to locate this. And I'm going to fire through a couple examples here towards the end. So if we could advance the slide. And if anybody wants to hear more, I didn't get a chance to talk a ton about Power Objects, more about any of this. I'll be around through most of the day. So feel free to approach me. I do want to be respectful of time. That's just how that last one works. So you can see it's using the native contact entity, the native address table, and then it's using Bing Maps to find the lat and long, return it right to your Power App. You can advance right ahead again. We had a customer, this is out of the hackathon, so we had a customer that was using, I don't know if this is actually how it is, but they were using paper and pen to track kudos among their employees. So I always picture it as like an old restaurant or something where they're writing on the ticket like, hey, Joe did a great job, send it up here, slide it down. I don't know if that's actually how it worked, but that was in my imagination how it worked. But essentially they had these tickets that they were filling out, and obviously if you're going to take the time to write on a piece of paper, hey, Ken really helped me out today, I want to throw him some kudos, you'd hope that that would end up somewhere, whether it be on somebody's report or a newsletter or some extra recognition. You weren't writing that for your health. You were hoping that somebody would be recognized for that. So we built them a very simple, very easy to use app. It's a few screens. Again, this is one that took a day at a hackathon, and you can basically give a little sentiment analyzer about who you're talking to and why you want to give them kudos. And then this rolls into a database which we can actually report on, and we can start to build those Power BI dashboards and look at, okay, who are my high achieving employees? Who are the folks that I should be investing in their careers? Things like that. I don't know how much time I have left, but if you can advance one more slide. I think I can show one more. So this one was a resort management. So if you think of a very, very large hotel type of complex, you can see the ability to personalize the app a little bit, just kind of a neat feature that I imagine this guy must be very good at Power Apps if he had time to build that in during a hackathon, but I thought that was pretty cool. And then otherwise, it's just a matter of, okay, here's your rooms you need to clean. Here's an easy way to report, oh, here's a maintenance request. Here's a spill. Oh, need a deep clean, something like that. So as you're working through this, and this ad, I think it has like mini bar stocking in it and light bulb replacements, things like that. So you can imagine the complexity of cleaning 1,000 rooms every night, potentially, something like that. And an application like this can make it much easier for your hotel staff. There's a lot less running around, a lot less double checking, reworking, and things like that. And you're kind of handing these tasks off. So each person, you might only have this section of the app. And then you can build in the other areas. And then there's another person that's handling, oh, I got to go clean a spill. Oh, I'm the repair person. So hopefully this just kind of gets you started in thinking about how you can use Power Apps to empower your business. Again, these were just kind of on a volunteer basis. We had our customers come forward, give us use cases. We built what we had time to. And if anybody would like to talk about potential ideas you have, I would love to take you through that. And I'm running low on time here, so I've got somebody coming from behind me. But like I said, I'll be around all day. I have more apps on my computer or these ones that I can show you more. I can talk more about Power Objects, whatever you need. Thank you very much.